Ticket scalping and resale has been a huge problem in the music industry lately. And recently, President Trump joined Kid Rock in signing an executive order to battle ticket bots and resellers. Live on Twitch right now. Hello, Twitch chat. If you're watching on YouTube later, you can go to twitch.tv/TankTheTech, where we talk about music news, do reactions, tell roadie stories, stuff like that. But before we start, I'm just going to take a minute to address everybody that's watching on YouTube. I realize this is flirting the line with like political discussion. Just know that we're talking about this because it affects the music industry. I know there's probably going to be people that are going to run to the comments and give their political opinions and stuff. That's not what I'm trying to do here. Please keep it civil in the comments. We're talking about how this is going to affect the music industry, not arguing politics. But this happened about 5 days ago. Kid Rock joined President Trump in the Oval Office to sign an executive order that specifically targets bots and resellers in the music industry. And I want to break down a lot about this because this executive order actually does more than just battle bots, and I think it's worth bringing up. First, I want to watch this video that was posted because I have not seen it yet, but I've heard a lot about it and I've seen some images and I heard it's kind of interesting. So let's jump into that. I mean, come on, dude. Look at that outfit. That's amazing. I've seen pictures of this. Like, I will say I do find it hilarious that like they were, everybody was giving a hard time to Zelensky about showing up not wearing a suit in the Oval Office. But Kid Rock looks like he's like 4 hours late to a 4th of July party on Broadway in Nashville. Like, listen, I know there's going to be some people that make the point that like, well, Kid Rock's not a world leader. I understand. I get it. It's just funny, dude. But let's check out what happened here.
Anyone who's bought a concert ticket in the last decade, maybe 20 years, no matter what your politics are, knows it is a conundrum. You buy a ticket for $100, by the time you check out, it's $170. You don't know what you can charge for, but more importantly, these bots, they come in to get all the good tickets to your favorite shows you want to go to, and then they're relisted immediately for sometimes a 400% or 500% markup. I would love down the road if there'd be some legislation that we could actually put a cap on the resale of tickets. And I'm a capitalist and a deregulation guy, but they've tried this in some places in Europe, and it seems to be the only thing that's us as artists be able to get the tickets into the hands of the fans at the prices we set. I would rather be, a hero to the working class people and have them be able to come attend my shows and give them a fair ticket price. I can't control that right now, so hopefully this is a step to really be able to make that happen.
I will interject really quick and just say, regardless of your opinions on Kid Rock, for years, he actually has been very vocal about this kind of stuff. And he's tried to do a lot for the music industry and battling Live Nation and Ticketmaster and stuff. And if you guys remember years ago, he actually did a tour where he actively worked with the promoters to set the ticket prices as low as humanly possible. And I believe that they even lowered the price of like concessions and stuff too. I think beers were really cheap and it worked. He did that tour. He probably did lose money on that tour, but he wanted to like prove that we can do this. And I want to do something for the fans that have been getting screwed for so long with paying outrageous prices. So to his credit, he has done stuff like that. And he has been very vocal for years. And it's kind of frustrating at times for somebody that does work in this industry because there are artists that are so much bigger than Kid Rock that could be doing so much more and could be so much more vocal about stuff like this. But he has been very consistent with all of this, to his credit.
I know a lot of artists and a lot of fans who love concerts and music are going to be very appreciative of you taking this action.
And I think
sir.
Bob is more interested in the fans and the people that are having to pay crazy prices than he is the artist. Maybe the artist a little bit, but the fans a lot. I've spoken to him over the years about it. And it's been, it bothers him. It bothers a lot of other artists too. You see the artists and they go out with $100 ticket and it sells for $2,000 the following night.
That sounds super outrageous, but it's actually not. Like we've checked recently. Like look at the Sleep Token tour in North America. Bots scooped up those tickets and there are literally tickets being resold for upwards of like, we saw, I think a $1,900 ticket for the Sleep Token show. Like that's insane. That number is not an over exaggeration.
If Ticketmaster sells a ticket, if you buy a ticket and go to a show, you're in a lot of ways their worst customer. Because they make another 17, whatever percentage every time that ticket resells. So they don't want to enforce the Bots Act necessarily because they're making more money off it. They've only enforced that Bots Act one time, I believe.
Yeah.
A couple years ago in New York City, I think someone got a $2 million fine And that's the only time they've enforced that act.
And who's the primary culprit? Who sells these tickets?
It's the scalpers. It's these bots go in and they're automated. Well, there's reselling markets. Yeah.
I think I know, Peter. But that's all right. Don't get them involved.
What company do you think?
Maybe they're more innocent than we think. Huh?
What did they just cut out? I heard somebody in the background go, what country do you think it is? Were they about to suggest that it probably is like a specific country that is trying to use bots and scalp tickets and make money?
But that's all right. Don't get them involved. Maybe
what company do you think?
Yeah, he said, don't get them involved. And then somebody in the background asked, what country do you think it is? Was it country or company? Hold on.
What company do you think?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's a good point. It didn't say country, it said company. I wonder if they were about to suggest that Ticketmaster is doing it themselves. That would be interesting. For me personally, I have no proof that's happening, but it wouldn't surprise me. And it kind of goes along to what we were just going to say, where he said, if you're a fan and you're buying a ticket from Ticketmaster, to them, you are their worst customer. Because if that ticket gets bought and then resold on their platform as a resale ticket, they make even more money. So yeah, why would they enforce the Bots Act? Because if bots are buying up these tickets on Ticketmaster's website and then reselling them at a markup on Ticketmaster's website, they're making extra money. That is a fair and fantastic point to make by Bob. Not Kid Rock, Bob.
Do you have something, Brian?
Yeah, I do actually. I actually feel that the consumer is going to take the money that they've saved and actually buy merch, which you guys have a big percentage of, or do concessions, which you guys split with the venue on that as well. So I think their money
we don't
goes
share
for
concessions a lot.
No, that's not. Okay, I'm glad he just said something. That's not true. They don't share concessions with venues. That's not a thing.
We don't share concessions a lot.
No,
those are, we try to, but they don't want us. They don't want to share it in the beer prices and parking or any of that stuff. But the bottom line is,
I love you. You look so cute right now. I'm not talking to Kid Rock. I'm talking to my kid.
the bottom line is there's money for everyone to be made. There's plenty of money to go around. You know, no one's going to really lose here. You know, Ticketmaster, if we can get a cap, they're going to lose some money. But I've already talked to the CEO, Michael, and he's given me his word. He's on board for it.
To that point, whoever said, I believe fans, if they had a lower ticket price, would probably spend more on merch, concessions, stuff like that. I think that too, man. I've seen a lot of comments from people that said like, yeah, I'd love to, get a t-shirt from the show or something, but the ticket was already, $150, $200 and I don't want to spend more. So that is also a good point. If these ticket prices become reasonable, fans are going to be more willing to spend money on merchandise, which is going more directly to the band than the actual ticket price to begin with. There's actually a little more behind this we need to bring up too. Back in May of 2024, the Department of Justice sued Live Nation and Ticketmaster for violating the Sherman Antitrust Act, which is basically accusing them of monopolizing the ticket sales industry and the live concert industry. And I know a lot of people were actually worried that that lawsuit was probably going to get thrown out once Trump's administration took office, because that lawsuit was originally started by the Joe Biden Department of Justice, but it hasn't been thrown out, and I don't think it will. And if you guys remember, you guys in Twitch chat, I have no video evidence of this because I didn't record it. I was originally gonna make a video about this lawsuit like months and months and months ago, and we just talked about it on Twitch. And I actually said back then, I don't think this lawsuit will get thrown out, mainly because of what we see here. Kid Rock. President Trump is very good friends with Kid Rock, a person who is very vocal about Live Nation and Ticketmaster. And Trump, a lot of the times, is influenced by a lot of the people that are around him. And if he's got somebody like Kid Rock in his corner telling him, push this, like pressure this Live Nation lawsuit, it's going to happen. I don't think he's going to throw it out at all. And he hasn't. An attorney named Morgan Harper of the American Economic Liberties Project, also a former U.S. Senate candidate, said both the prior Trump administration and much more aggressively the current Biden administration, this article I'm reading from is from months ago when Biden was still in office, took enforcement action to break up Live Nation and force a change in their business model. So it seems like there's absolutely no reason why anything should change because of the harms that are being inflicted by this monopoly on small businesses, independent venues, and consumers. The stock price for Live Nation actually had a big jump when Trump won this election. And she actually continued by saying that she thinks it's premature. She said, I think there's an assumption that a Republican administration will have less enforcement activity coming out of the Department of Justice and potentially out of the government overall. So I do think it's a bit premature because even in the earlier Trump administration, we did see enforcement action against monopolists, including Google, not just Live Nation. And I think it would only be fair to remind people that this really isn't a one-sided political thing, because the Live Nation Ticketmaster merger originally went through under the Obama administration, which is Democratic, not Republican. So I will admit, I did have a slight thought in my head that maybe because this original lawsuit came from a Democratic administration, that maybe Republican administration would try and reverse it or not pursue it as heavily. But I don't think that is the case at all. I think they are going to go after this still. Now, this executive order that was signed, and really quick, executive orders signed by a president must be upheld. They're not the same in a way that a law is passed by like Congress, but it is an official declaration that lawmakers have to abide by. Now, these executive orders can be challenged by courts and judges in the U.S., but with this specific one, I don't see why there's any reason why they should. So I do think that this executive order will stand. Now, how hard it's enforced, I don't know. Only time will tell. But the executive order itself instructs the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC. If I say FTC, that's what I'm talking about. It instructs the FTC to ramp up its regulation of secondary ticketing across the U.S. However, from what this says, the same executive order also instructs government officials to ensure that competition laws are appropriately enforced in the concert and entertainment industry, which is a very, very important thing to bring up, because you would think that maybe Ticketmaster and Live Nation might be celebrating this executive order because of they're going to enforce stricter rules on the bots and it'll make them look better and stuff. But this second part of it, ensuring that competition laws are appropriately enforced in the concert and entertainment industry, if they enforce that, that is, if they enforce that, that could actually be even worse news for Live Nation, because if they're going to start really keeping an eye on how competition is going, I think independent venues are going to be kind of stoked about that. And yeah, this says the U.S. National Independent Venue Association welcomed all elements of Trump's executive order. Its executive director, Stephen Parker, says that Trump's order will help address the two problems jeopardizing the well-being of artists, independent stages, and fans: a predatory, unchecked resale market where bots and deceptive practices price gouge fans, and the Live Nation monopoly that forces small businesses to shut their doors. The order says that both the FTC and the U.S. Attorney General should ensure that competition laws are appropriately enforced in the concert and entertainment industry, including where venues, ticketing agents, or combinations thereof operate to the detriment of artists and fans. Now, one thing that I didn't know, which I just came across, it says that regulation of event ticketing, including secondary ticketing, mainly sits at a state level in the U.S., meaning the individual states actually set the rules and boundaries on this and not the federal government. That's crazy, especially because it says the rules vary considerably around the country, state to state. I actually did not know that. However, there is some U.S.-wide federal regulation, specifically the Better Online Ticket Sales Act, or what's more commonly known as the BOTS Act. That passed in 2016 at the end of the Obama administration. That prohibits the use of special software, or bots, by ticket scalpers to buy up all the tickets from primary ticketing platforms in order to resell them. And while that act is law, as Bob Kid Rock mentioned, it's only been enforced like one time. But continuing this executive order, it does say that the FTC should rigorously enforce the BOTS Act and collaborate with state attorneys general or other state consumer protection officers on enforcement of the BOTS Act, including by providing such state officials with information or evidence obtained by the FTC when consistent with applicable law. As Shelby just said in chat, a law without enforcement is just a suggestion. Yeah, sure. And I think one of the other big questions too is something like this going to actually affect ticket prices going forward? Because there's another article I found that talks about how the New York Times recently reported on the growing number of Gen Z concert goers who are willing to go into debt in order to see their favorite artist perform. And one of the things we've talked about recently with all these VIP packages is a lot of people have suggested that, they're only making this stuff for, rich people. Only rich people can afford this, when that's not necessarily true, because unfortunately, at least in the US specifically, because I know that credit cards and credit works a lot differently here than in some other places, People are absolutely willing to go into like credit debt to get the money to do these VIP packages and go to these concerts, which is kind of alarming as well. This article says in 1996, the average ticket for a top 100 tour went for about $25, while today average ticket prices are about $135 per Polestar, which if you don't know what Polestar is, that's like a trade publication, like a website, cover the live music industry and ticket numbers and stuff like that. And I know $25 to what it is now, you could relate that to inflation over time. It has been 30 years, but I'm not an economist or anything, but I think we all know, especially here, like, yeah, the prices of everything are going up, but people's wages really haven't. So it's kind of a losing battle there. The only thing about this that Kid Rock, Bob, sorry, we're calling him Bob right now because it's official. The one thing Bob did bring up that wasn't addressed at all was caps. There are no caps on this. And he was saying, I would like to see caps put in place on the resale market, which I think is a good idea too. I don't think a fixed dollar amount would work. I think it's going to have to be more like a percentage. Like if they were to put in, an order or a law saying, if you buy a ticket, you can't resell it for more than 75% of its face value or something like that. There has been nothing brought up about that. And a music industry analyst named Bob Lefsetz called the executive order grandstanding, which I did use that word a little while ago, saying, in reality, this order says nothing other than ticket scalpers make a lot of money and they must pay taxes on their revenue. He wrote that the Bots Act has been rarely used because not enough money has been delegated to enforce it, and expressed doubt that such funds would be allocated given the new Department of Government Efficiency's efforts to reduce government spending. That's a whole different topic for somebody other than me to talk about, but I would say it is probably a fair point to bring up. You can only enforce these things like the Bots Act if they are given enough support, finances, to do that. Now, maybe with this executive order that was just signed, because the executive order does state that they want the FTC to rigorously enforce the Bots Act, maybe some more support does get thrown their way, but who really knows? Again, like we're at a point where we're not going to know if this really does anything for a while. So for me personally, I think as a music fan, as somebody in the industry, somebody that also still buys tickets to concerts, yes, I don't get put on guest list for everything. I think this is good, but I'll put an asterisk on it. I will say I think this is good with an asterisk, that asterisk being if it's actually enforced and if they actually pay attention to this. Hopefully it is more than just grandstanding, and hopefully they do put the proper resources into the FTC to enforce the Bots Act. But again, I've said this a few times now, like only time will tell. I hope that maybe a big part of this is going to be reliant on Kid Rock, Bob, staying in the ear of President Trump or the people around him, making sure that this is enforced, or keep poking them and being like, hey, what are we doing about this? Are we keeping our eye on this? I actually do think Kid Bob, as it was just said in chat, I do think that him actually, I think he's a key component to this. I think that he is going to be a key component in this to making sure that this actually sticks and this is actually taken care of. Firebeard in chat just said scalpers will find a way around this. They always do. Wouldn't surprise me. I mean, you do have a point. If there's a roadblock put up in one way, they're just going to go another way. And then they'll have to try and battle that too. There's so much with this, man. It's like, it looks good on paper, but as Kid Bob said, if you're just buying a ticket at face value, you're Live Nation's worst customer. Live Nation actually makes more money when these bots are reselling tickets on Ticketmaster's website. So at the end of the day, this really could be a whole load of nothing. But I really actually hope it isn't, because as I've said, like him or not, Bob has a lot of fantastic points on this subject. And I think it is time that the consumer gets a little more backup so that they can actually afford to go to these events that they want to go to without having to go into debt. But anyways, I just wanted to bring this up because this is a huge thing to do with the music industry, and it has the potential to affect it a lot. So hopefully you learned a little about what's going on. I did while we were doing this live. And thanks for checking it out. To everybody that was in Twitch chat, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. And one more time, as a reminder to everybody on YouTube, if you want, you can go to twitch.tv/TankTheTech, where we check out news like this and do other stuff. So yeah. I'm also on a ton of different social media. @TankTheTech is my handle on just about everything. But until next time, wherever you are in the world, be safe, be kind to each other. I love you all, and I will see you very soon.